It's nice to meet you, Jordan. My name is Bernard Ozarowski, and my outlet's the Invention of Dreams.
Nice to meet you, Bernard.
So let's start at the top. How did this project come to you?
So this project came to me in a really unique way. I was literally just quarantining, over the summer. The pandemic was a few months in, and got a call. The film had been cast, but then it didn't work out with one of the actresses. So I had a meeting with Emerson, the director. It went great. Totally hit it off, and we both kind of mutually agreed, like, yeah, this is a really good fit. And so a couple of days later, I was on a plane and in a cornfield.
So obviously it's a genre film, and a lot of your background is in genre work, from Umbrella Academy, Supernatural, all of that. Are you drawn to genre pieces as a performer? Is it, stoke your personal interests?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think these types of projects are always just really different and interesting and compelling. And, it's their own world. It's sort of in a vacuum, which is really cool and fun to play with. Obviously they're quite different, and that Umbrella Academy, for example, is, this huge world and time travel, and really, like, possibilities are endless. Where Escape the Field, it's very much contained to this cornfield. So that felt quite different, and a very small cast. And it was cool. It was cool to get to, do the action, high intensity type thing, but in a really controlled setting where we were free to play within that.
One of the things I think is interesting about, genre pieces, especially low budget genre pieces, is there's a tendency to cast people based in large part on the audience's prior relationships to them. So obviously audiences know you as Grace. They know Theo from Sons of Anarchy or Luke Cage. They know Shane, I guess, from Nikita. I'm curious if it factors into your performance at all, the sort of meta relationship that folks may have with you as a performer.
I think it's more just, always jumping into the character and making sure that there's a really deep understanding and, like, doing the character justice. I love to kind of do it all. Like I always want to be one of those actors that, can dabble in every single genre. I never want to get stuck anywhere, just because I really love all of it. And I just want to keep being challenged. And this film, it definitely was very challenging. It was definitely different than anything that I had done. And so for me, it was just jumping into, like, researching, understanding this character's backstory, coming from a trauma surgeon background, leading a very solitary life, having trouble letting people in, but having a really big heart. And it was fun to get to play a human, great. It's a very different ballgame when you're building a character that's kind of walking that line versus a very, very human, very primal survival type of project.
I wanted to ask about how you approach building out the human side of a character like this, because obviously in a film like this, there isn't a ton of time for sort of extended character beats. But I think what's done here works well. I think a lot about your relationship with Theo in the film. And I'm curious how much of, how you go about preparing the sort of your character's backstory and sort of the internal performance work that you're doing.
Well, we were really fortunate because we had the time and we were so contained. We really had, the gift of being able to delve into these deep conversations with our director, Emerson, with each other, figuring out, like, why our characters are acting this way and, like, how we would feel, and getting to really feel it out and getting to know each other as people as well. So I think, for me, like, doing the research, understanding, who Sam is to this point, because we don't get to see these characters' lives before they're dropped in this cornfield. So, for us to be able to portray them in a really honest, truthful, authentic way, it was important for us to understand what our lives were to that point, and why we would react the way that we react, and how we're primed to respond to this situation. Because it's a really terrifying situation, and all of us would totally react to something like that differently. Yeah. I think it's always really important as an actor to know the similarities to a character and the differences, so that, there's a way to bridge that gap and know what to lean into. For me, it was like understanding the pain of Sam, having lost both of her parents, when her father recently, being very much a workaholic and very risk averse, and not really having many close contacts, and not really letting people in, and understanding that would be a challenge, but the quick thinking, taking leadership, pushing the feelings down in order to respond to an emergency. Like all of those are skill sets that she would rely on on a daily basis in her career. So those are the quick things. And the other things are we're just collecting data and figuring out how and when to trust.
I spoke with Theo about this film a couple of days ago, and one of the things we talked about was how much he enjoyed building out the relationship with you, even behind the scenes, and sort of figuring out the character dynamics. So I'd be curious to hear you speak to what it was like working with him, as he's really your most frequent scene partner here.
Yeah, I mean, I just adore Theo. Like right from the get-go, it was very clear he's one of those people who's extremely genuine, extremely dedicated, extremely passionate about what he does. And we really got along, and we spoke the same language, and we both really, really cared about the story and telling it in a way that felt right. And so yeah, we spent a lot of time like not only getting to know each other, but talking about the characters and kind of that team building feeling where you just like get to know someone so well on a personal level that it extends really easily into the characters themselves. And, you know, Sam and Tyler start to really build a bond and a trust that becomes, I think, quite beautiful towards the end. And really they care about each other. And so it was really awesome to get to be able to actually know Theo and become really good friends with Theo and really just enjoy working with him and the rest of the cast. Like it was so much fun.
What was the filming process like? I think we're sort of in this almost time capsule moment. I know this is one of the first films. I don't know if this was the first project you worked on post-COVID, but
yeah.
So it's really your first time back in front of a camera after everything that's happened. And I'm curious what the experience was like for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think for all of us, it was our first project back. So we were kind of just figuring it out as we went along. I think we were the 12th in North America or something like that to go back. I mean, this was, just after the summer 2020. So it was still fairly fresh. And I think COVID protocols on set were still being rolled out and figured out. And so it was, testing 3 times a week and amazing COVID safety team, and all the crew were extremely respectful. I mean, it definitely took some getting used to not be able to like, you're talking to crew members and you're like, I have no idea what you look like, and you know them so intimately, but you don't, you wouldn't recognize them on the street, which is really strange. And, yeah, I mean, it was weird. It was definitely like probably my least favorite part of shooting, having the tests done. It was like, early stage testing. It was so painful, and it was like blood. And it just was like, I was told by our tester, Robert, that my nose is not built for the tests that they were doing. And I was like, well, I would have to agree with you, Robert. It does not feel natural. And I think we should stop.
What was the process like at a more technical level, sort of, working, I gather is filmed largely literally in a cornfield. What was it like working in that environment? I imagine there's sort of maneuverability issues, things of that nature, as you're trying to film the action beats in particular.
I mean, I think it would actually made life a lot easier for everyone, because they'd done a really good job of like, Emerson like was very specific and had done, he knew what he wanted. He knew like, okay, this is the area where we're going to have these scenes. This is the area where this is going to happen. So it was really, because we had it to ourselves, we really were able to make it, fit perfectly for our needs. And it was a very small crew, it was very contained. And if you needed a moment alone, you just take a few steps that way and you're literally alone in the corn. And it's actually terrifying. These things were huge. But yeah, it actually made it easier. I think that we were able to just kind of settle in, and we had the space to ourselves. We could work in sequence. We didn't have to, there were no location issues where we had to start at the end and come back to the beginning. So for the most part, they did their best to keep, the shooting schedule in order of what happened in the script, which is always really awesome as an actor to be able to move forward with your character's journey.
In terms of genre, are there any favorite genre films of yours that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I love comedy. I really love comedy. I'm excited to do more of that because I don't think there's enough good comedy out there, and that's what what I'm writing right now. And like, that really excites me. But if I'm totally honest, every genre excites me. I love movies. I love storytelling, and so there is not a genre that I don't really want to keep playing and trying.
Could I ask about what you're writing?
Yeah, I just finished a pilot with a friend, and I'm working on another one that's sort of like a dark comedy, sort of Fleabag-esque.
Oh wow,
very female led. Yeah.
Love Fleabag. That's fantastic.
Oh yeah, so good. Yeah, and I love like the other one's more of like a Schitt's Creek sort of vibe, which is it was so brilliant. how they did that ensemble comedy where you just like, again, that chemistry, right? Chemistry is so important. So yeah, I definitely am excited to do more comedy. I love action. I really enjoyed Escape the Field for that. Like I'm a very physical person. I always did a lot of sports growing up. So anytime I get to physically challenge myself to prepare for a role really, floats my boat.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate having the chance to speak with you today. Wow. I really enjoyed your work in the film, and I look forward to seeing what you have in the future.
Thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it.